No one gets doted on like the baby of the family, right? Well, not in my case. I would have settled for just being allowed to live. But in my family, even that was asking too much. You see, I'm the youngest in my family, and I would happily trade it to be anything else. Now, I know what you're thinking. This sounds like a projection of immaturity, the selfishness of youth projected onto the success of my sibling, a passing phase, maybe even the whining of a spoiled brat. But unfortunately, not for me. For as long as I can remember, I've been the black sheep of my family, an outsider for reasons I've never been able to truly understand. I've never been massively academic, but I'm definitely a bit of a bookworm. I try not to get in anyone's way at home or at school, and my grades are usually above average. Just a geeky little class rep by day and gamer by night. My brother, on the other hand, has always been a standout at sports, excelling in football and being lavish with love and presence and praise, not only from our parents, but from our classmates too. No matter what my brother did, he never got into trouble. My parents praised the very ground he walked on, but with me, I was never allowed to buy anything. Everything that I ever owned was a hand-me-down from my brother. I tried to not let it get to me though, because he wasn't a bad guy. We just never connected in that special way that brothers and sisters sometimes do. To remind each other that they love one another when they're not busy fighting over something stupid, we just never did either. The fighting or the making up. In my family, I was just a part of the furniture, an annoyance that my family had to deal with. I remember one day at school, out of nowhere, a girl from my 7th grade geometry class came up behind me and grabbed me by my ponytail, spat straight into my face, and then slammed my nose into my locker before marching casually back in the direction from which she came. Apparently, she'd got it in her head that I was flirting with a boy she liked. For about a week, I had been meeting him in the library after school and helping him catch up on a few subjects that he'd fallen behind on after being away for a week with bronchitis. Truth be told, I quite liked him, and I think he liked me too, but we were both way too awkward to do anything about it. But now I was paying the price for my after-school tutoring with a broken nose and a torn shirt. What really hurt, though, was seeing my brother among the crowd of rubberneckers, craning for the best view of the scene before them. It just didn't occur to him to do anything at all other than gasp in unison with the crowd and then start audibly gossiping with his friends. When our eyes met, he just raised his eyebrows and shrugged. I'd never felt so truly alone as I did at that moment. But when I was 14, my world was turned completely upside down. I was diagnosed with acute lymphoblastic leukemia, or ALL. I had never even heard of ALL before, but it was the seriousness with which the doctor delivered that sent a wave of coldness all over me. I remember him asking me if I wanted him to call my parents. I didn't even know how to process what I had just been told and couldn't bring myself to answer him. Instead, I calmly got up, said sorry, and walked out of his office. But inside, I was freaking out. Once I got home, I did some Googling and familiarized myself with the disease, when despair truly set in. And for as much as I've told myself over the years that my parents don't love me, they were certainly sad. That much was obvious. My grandparents and my aunt and uncle were devastated. I'm particularly close with my uncle, and always wanted to tell him that, as far as I'm concerned, he's my real dad. But I would settle for just telling him how special he is to me. It always puts a smile on his face. My diagnosis had apparently come quite late, and we were told that chemotherapy, coupled with a bone marrow transplant, was my only realistic option if I wanted to live. My uncle turned out to be a perfect donor and was overjoyed to be able to help. He didn't bat an eyelid when the surgeon was explaining the severe discomfort that he would be in for either. Chemotherapy, however, is expensive, and my family is far from rich. I've long suspected that my parents see my brother's prodigious sporting talents as their ticket to a better life, and as such, his college education is their main focus financially. With my uncle and I preparing for the bone marrow biopsy and transplant, The doctor started discussing a payment plan with my parents. What happened next was the most soul-crushing moment of my life. Without hesitation, and seemingly not even considering the fact that I was right there in the room, my father said, "We won't be paying for this. You'll have to find another way, or we'll leave it in the hands of God. Our son starts college in the fall, and that's our chief priority right now." As soon as I heard those words, my vision started to blur. They never made it so clear where their hearts lay. I couldn't help but pass out there and then. As soon as I came to, my emotions were running wild. The abject fear of my future and the immense hurt that I felt at the selfishness of my parents. The sensation of a cavernous emptiness and sorrow at having never been truly loved. At having never been truly loved and appreciated just for being me and existing in the world, as well as providing them with a daughter who may be far from perfect, but at least does her best for them. And now I was being discarded like yesterday's garbage. My uncle, a frail gentleman, rose to his feet and yelled at my parents to get out of the room. He ended up paying for my treatment. And guess what? There were terrifying and hard moments along the way, but it seems to have worked. I've been in remission for the last 15 months, and I feel better than I ever have in my life. More than modern medicine, though, I have to give most of the credit to the mysterious power of love. If my uncle hadn't stepped in when my parents had shown themselves to be unwilling, unloving, I don't know if I would have had the will to keep fighting. I live with my uncle and aunt now, and they're fighting to get full custody of me. I still occasionally think back to my parents' fateful decision to abandon me when I needed them most, but I don't bear them any ill will. In their own way, they're very sick people, and I don't need them in my life anymore. The most harrowing led me to the place that I can finally call home. And one last thing about my uncle, it feels great to be able to finally call him Dad.